Artists. I have been working on this sculpture, and I probably didn't do a lot of narration when I was doing this, but the corrections that I made were pretty intense. One of the things I made the torso way too big, and I exaggerated the 10th rib, which kind of pokes out. And one thing you're going to be finding when you do a sculpture like this is that it's extremely difficult to do a reclining pose. I definitely prefer poses that are standing because they are definitely less complex, but I think that this one's going to be a little bit more interesting. I am using water-based clay, and water-based clay gives you quite a bit of speed, and I could have used the regular clay, but it's so easy to work something like large with water-based clay because it's also so cheap. And I bought 2 bags of water-based clay. It's like a red with no grog, and grog is basically like little granules in the clay that help firing. And I could have done that for this, but I just don't like the way it feels. Like this is very plasticky looking, or plasticky feeling. It feels like you are working with something extremely smooth, and I rather like that. But I do like the grog for firing, because a lot of these pieces, by the way, this is going to be fired. So what I'm thinking is after I complete this, I'll hollow it out, and I can even like cast it in several pieces, but it's fairly small. It's not too big. But I think the pose is interesting, and I do have a plan for kind of like a narration of this, and I think it might be interesting, but if you're a little uptight, you might not like what I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do right now is come up with the general proportions. I think the proportions are getting there. It's a little bit hard to work from photos. I'm using, I think it's artist360.com, and you can buy these photos, and I did buy this one. I think it was $5. And it's definitely worth having details, or at least high quality images of the model. And I think I'll probably be doing a lot more based on photos in the future. I would like to use a real model, but they are expensive. In the DC area, they charge $15 to $20 an hour to pose for you. But as soon as you take photos of them, they increase their price. And generally models, they charge, or photography models, they charge like $50 an hour. And I also don't have a lot of space here in my studio, so I basically do things that are small, and that's for a reason. I'm going over this with this cloth. This cloth works really well because it's a rough cloth, and it kind of resembles a little bit of burlap. It's a shop towel, and you can work over the details. I don't want too many details in this. I'm really just trying to get the structure. The one thing I'm going to do that's different, I'm actually going to make her platform round. That way I can include both her arms flat out on the platform, and this is just going to be a box without any drapes. I kind of like that idea of having something like very, very sharp and edgy. Then you have the body of the woman that's very curvy, so it's a nice contrast. And I have been putting different videos up of this sculpt, so hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this. I'm going to try and finish it up a little bit more. This is just really the preliminary style that I'm going for. You know, you kind of work out your gestures, and if you like the sculpture, you basically just add on to it. But once I add the gesture, and right now it looks kind of muscular, but she's pretty soft. She's fit. This model is fit, but it still looks too mannish. But I prefer to almost sculpt a man with muscles in the beginning and then add the anatomy for the woman. Of course, you have to keep in mind the pelvis and the shoulders being different and all of these things. But I often find that working from male models is a little bit more important than the female models. I do love the ribcage shape, but right now it looks it's a little bit off. I'm going to keep this nice and sharp. So if I was to make a mold of this, I would have quite a bit of an issue here under the legs. There's two legs that have angles to them, and there's also this shape and this shape. That would be a little bit difficult to cast, but it can be done. I think if I was to do that, I might actually cut the leg here and cut it here and mold this separately, and then the same thing with the other leg. So I would have 3 molds, and the 3 molds should work, but I don't think I'm gonna go that direction this time. I do like the water-based clay. It's kind of neat, and I can work fast and cheap. And in a way, like, the water-based clay is perfect for learning how to sculpt because it's so accessible. The downside of this water-based clay is it gets your floor a lot dirtier, and it's a whole lot messier. So, you know, I don't use a lot of this, but if you do attend sculpture classes, for example, there's a lot of dust in the air, and that might not be something that you guys enjoy. But if you work in your own studio and you don't have a lot of people making a mess, this is a perfectly fine medium that a lot of people over time have used successfully. By the way, I'm using this very large rake tool, and you can use this because right now my anatomy, it's there. Like what you have is the iliac crest here of the hips. You know, now you have to figure out the direction of the hips. The hips are just going straight, the ribs are just going straight. At this point, I could give it movement. I can twist the rib cage one way and the other, but I think I do like to keep it like this. What I'm going to do is put the arms stretched out, and she's going to be actual shackled to the floor, and I might spread just her legs just a little bit more, so it becomes a little bit more controversial, and a lot of people tend to get very upset about it, but you know, that's what being an artist is all about. Sometimes it's not about doing a safe sort of sculpture, and also I don't want to copy the reference outright. I think it's better to make it your own. You know, you want to look at reference but not copy it. Alright, thanks guys for watching, and I'll continue working on this. If you have any ideas for future sculptures, let me know in the comments below. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.